You ever get that feeling that something bigger is trying to reach you? Like the air around you shifts, the room gets quiet, and for a second, it feels like time itself is waiting for you to listen. Not with your ears, with something deeper. You don't know why, but you can feel it. Like there's a message hovering in the silence, meant only for you. You've been running through life, chasing, escaping, pretending, and suddenly, everything stops. Because what's coming isn't just coincidence, it's command. You ever wonder why some words hit you harder than others? Like out of nowhere, something cuts through the noise and lands deep. Right in that place you try so hard to ignore. It's strange, isn't it? You've heard 1,000 voices before, but this one feels different. It doesn't ask for your attention. It owns it. Like the world pauses for a second, waiting to see what you'll do next. That's not coincidence. That's not luck. That's design. Some messages don't stumble into your life. They're sent with purpose. And whether you're ready or not, when they arrive, you know. You've felt it before. That eerie sense that something's guiding you, pushing you, rearranging your world in ways that don't make sense until later. The moments that feel random, but connect perfectly when you look back. The people who show up right when you're about to give up. The opportunities that vanish just before you realize they would have destroyed you. That's not chance. That's alignment. That's orchestration. But you keep calling it coincidence because the truth terrifies you. The idea that maybe there's something greater pulling the strings. Not to control you, but to correct you. You think you make all your own choices. But how many times have you found yourself exactly where you didn't plan to be? Hearing something you didn't expect. Feeling something you can't explain. You weren't pushed here by accident. You were pulled. Because sometimes the only way to get your attention is to break your pattern, to interrupt your plans, to crash your comfort. You call it disruption, but it's direction in disguise. The message isn't always convenient. It doesn't care about your schedule or your mood. It shows up when it's supposed to. Not when you're ready, but when you're needed. You know what's funny? You've probably ignored 100 smaller messages before this one. The signs, the gut feelings, the warnings. You brushed them off because they didn't fit your logic. You said, I'll deal with it later. But later never comes, does it? Because life doesn't wait for you to be comfortable before it delivers what you need to hear. When you keep ignoring the whispers, the universe raises its voice. And if you still don't listen, it brings the storm, not out of cruelty, but because sometimes pain is the only volume loud enough to break through your denial. You ever notice how timing works? How some things happen too perfectly to be planned? The right message, the right moment, the right kind of silence before it hits. You could have scrolled past it, walked away, turned it off. But you didn't. Something in you stopped. Something inside whispered listen. That's not random. That's resonance. You're hearing what you were meant to hear, exactly when you needed it most. You weren't supposed to find this yesterday, and you won't need to hear it tomorrow. This moment was carved out for you. Right here, right now. It's funny how you spend so much of your life asking for signs, for guidance, for answers. But when they come, you second guess them. You say, is this really meant for me? As if the entire universe sends signals just for fun. Maybe that hesitation is why you keep missing what's already in front of you. You want the message to come your way, but on your terms. You want clarity without chaos, confirmation without confrontation. But that's not how truth works. Truth doesn't knock politely. It barges in. It rips through your comfort zone and demands to be heard. You've been running from the noise in your head, but this is different. This isn't noise. This is a call, a direct line from the source, cutting through every distraction you've built to avoid yourself. It's saying, wake up. Not because you're lost, but because you've forgotten who you are, forgotten what you're capable of, forgotten that every obstacle that's been breaking you was also shaping you. This message, it's not here to soothe you, it's here to summon you. To remind you that your story isn't random, your pain isn't pointless, and your timing isn't wrong. The truth is, you've been chosen for this moment, whether you realize it or not. You could have been anywhere, doing anything, but somehow you're here, listening, watching, feeling something stir inside you. That's not ordinary. That's divine interruption. The kind that doesn't need your permission because it already knows it's meant for you. You don't have to understand it yet. You just have to feel it. Because messages like this don't come to entertain. They come to awaken. And maybe that's the part that unsettles you the most. The idea that this isn't just another message, another speech, another voice echoing into the void. Maybe this one has your name written on it. Maybe this one was waiting for the exact moment your defenses cracked, your distractions faded, and your soul was quiet enough to listen. Because sometimes, when everything around you feels uncertain, that's when the real message arrives, not as a suggestion, but as a command. Not a coincidence, but a calling. You ever notice how people say they want a sign, but when it comes, they pretend they don't see it? It's like they're begging for direction while keeping their eyes shut. You've done it too, haven't you? Asking, pleading, whispering to the dark, show me what I'm supposed to do. And when the answer finally appears, you hesitate, you question it, you push it away because it's not wrapped the way you wanted. You wanted comfort, but truth doesn't come in comfort. It comes in chaos, in silence, in those sharp moments that make your heart race. You call it fear. I call it clarity. The truth always feels terrifying before it feels freeing. You keep waiting for a voice to boom out of the sky, but it never does. Because it doesn't need to. The voice is already inside you. It's been whispering all along. Beneath the noise, beneath the doubt. But you've buried it under other people's opinions, their rules, their expectations. You traded your own intuition for their validation. You've been living a life written by someone else's hand, following scripts that were never meant for you. That's why nothing feels right. That's why every step feels forced. Because you're walking a path that doesn't belong to you. And deep down, you know it. The real message isn't found in miracles or magic. It's found in moments. The ones that feel too heavy to be coincidence. The ones that break you open just enough for the light to slip through. Every pain, every loss, every closed door. They weren't punishments. They were redirections. The world isn't cruel for no reason. It's strategic. Every time you were hurt, every time you were left behind, something was being rearranged in your favor. You thought you were being abandoned, but really, you were being positioned. You were being stripped of what was small to make room for what was real. You've been so busy trying to fit in that you forgot how to stand out. You tried to silence your uniqueness because it made others uncomfortable. You shrank yourself to be accepted by people who wouldn't recognize your worth, even if it hit them in the face. And now you wonder why you feel empty. You can't fill a life with pieces that don't belong to you. You can't become who you were meant to be while clinging to the version the world prefers. There's a difference between living and existing. And most people never notice which one they're doing until it's too late. Maybe that's why this message found you. Because deep down, you're tired of pretending. Tired of acting like everything's fine when it's not. You're tired of chasing approval from people who don't even approve of themselves. You've been measuring your worth with their broken rulers, trying to meet their standards while they have none. That's why you're exhausted. That's why no achievement ever feels enough. Because you're not living your truth. You're performing someone else's expectations. And the universe can't reward a mask. It only responds to authenticity. You want to know why everything feels heavy lately. Why every choice feels like a battle. Every day feels like a test. It's because you're on the edge of transformation. Growth doesn't feel peaceful. It feels like destruction. You're shedding versions of yourself that you've outgrown, and it hurts. But that pain isn't punishment, it's preparation. The old you can't survive where you're going. You can't carry all that baggage into a higher version of your life. You've got to release it, even if it means losing the people who can't go with you. Some losses are actually protection. Some endings are disguised beginnings. People talk about faith like it's a feeling. It's not. It's a choice. It's waking up every day and trusting something bigger than your fear, even when you can't see it. It's hearing that small voice inside say, "Keep going," when everything around you screams, "Give up." That's faith. Not perfection, not peace, but persistence. You've already survived things that were meant to destroy you. You've already proven that you can rise again and again. So why doubt now? The same strength that got you here is still alive in you. You just stopped listening to it because you started listening to them. You keep thinking your life will change when you get that opportunity, that money, that approval. But it won't. It changes when you change. When you finally stop waiting for a sign and start realizing you already are the sign. You are the message. You are the proof that miracles don't need to make sense to be real. Everything you've been through, everything that broke you, everything that confused you, it wasn't meaningless. It was training. It was shaping your voice, sharpening your will, setting you up for this very moment. Because when the message is meant for you, nothing can stop it from reaching you. Maybe that's why you're hearing this now. Because you were never supposed to find it earlier. Maybe all the pain, the doubt, the waiting, it all led you here, to this point, to this realization. You've been searching for a message from above, but it's been echoing within you all along. The call was never coming from the sky. It was coming from inside your soul, begging you to wake up, to rise, to remember. And when you finally do, when you finally listen, everything, and I mean everything, starts to shift. You ever notice how life doesn't scream when it wants to teach you something? It whispers, over and over again. Same situation, different faces. Same pain, different places. The pattern keeps looping, and you keep calling it bad luck. But it's not luck. It's a lesson that you keep skipping. See, life isn't cruel. It's patient. It'll sit there, waiting for you to notice, waiting for you to change. And if you don't, it'll repeat itself. Again and again, until the pain gets loud enough for you to finally hear it. That's the thing about life. It doesn't stop testing you just because you're tired. It stops when you learn. You think you're moving forward, but you're not. You're running in circles, convincing yourself you're making progress. You change jobs, you change people, you change cities. And yet, the same emptiness keeps following you. You think you left it behind, but it's sitting right next to you, disguised as something new. Because you can't outrun what's inside you. The world keeps giving you the same script because you refuse to rewrite your role. You want a new chapter, but you keep reading the same page. You're trapped not because the world has locked you in, but because you've locked yourself in patterns that feel familiar. It's almost funny how humans crave change, but fear discomfort. You say you want to evolve, but the moment something feels uncomfortable, you retreat. You beg for growth, but when it starts to hurt, you call it unfair. Growth isn't gentle. It's messy. It's ugly. It's raw. It tears you apart so it can rebuild you stronger. And yet, you keep running back to your comfort zone. The same people, same habits, same excuses. Because they feel safe. You don't realize that safety is a lie. It's the trap that keeps you from becoming more. The truth is, you'd rather stay miserable in the familiar than be uncomfortable in the unknown. That's why the same lesson keeps showing up. Because you're too scared to pass it. You keep asking, why me? As if the universe has something against you. It doesn't. It's not punishing you. It's waking you up. Every rejection, every betrayal, every delay, they're not signs of failure. They're instructions. They're red flags pointing at something you refuse to see. You think you're unlucky, but really, you're being redirected. The problem is, you're so focused on what you lost that you miss what it's leading you to. You cry over closed doors without realizing they're protecting you from rooms that would have destroyed you. Life doesn't take things from you to hurt you. It removes what blocks you. But you won't understand that until you stop resisting and start listening. And let's talk about pain. Oh, pain is the favorite teacher. The one nobody wants, but everybody needs. Pain doesn't lie. It doesn't flatter. It doesn't sugarcoat. It tells you exactly where the wound is. But instead of facing it, you numb it. You distract yourself. You drown it in noise, music, scrolling, people, anything to avoid the silence. Because silence exposes the truth, doesn't it? It shows you the cracks you've been hiding under laughter. It forces you to confront the version of yourself you've been pretending doesn't exist. That's why it keeps coming back. Because you can't heal what you won't face. You've mistaken repetition for punishment when it's actually mercy. You keep getting the same lesson because you're still being given a chance to get it right. Every time life knocks you down, it's saying, try again, but this time do it differently. But you don't. You react the same way. Think the same thoughts, make the same choices, and expect a different outcome. That's insanity disguised as habit. You're not cursed. You're conditioned. Conditioned to cling to pain that feels familiar. Conditioned to confuse chaos with passion. Conditioned to think struggle is your destiny when it's just your pattern. Here's the truth you don't want to admit. You're addicted to your own suffering. You wear it like armor because it's predictable. You've built an identity around being broken, around being misunderstood, around being the victim. Because as long as you're the victim, you don't have to take responsibility. It's easier to say, life did this to me, than to admit, I keep choosing this. But the moment you realize that you're the common denominator in your pain, everything shifts. You can't change what you don't own. And once you own it, the loop starts to break. The lesson was never hidden. It's been in front of you the entire time. The conversations that hurt you, the people who triggered you, the failures that crushed you, they were mirrors, showing you the parts of yourself that still needed healing. But instead of seeing the mirror, you smashed it and blamed the reflection. You didn't want to see that the problem wasn't them. It was what they revealed in you. That's why it keeps happening. Because you keep destroying the messengers instead of decoding the message. You think the universe is cruel for making you relive the same story. But maybe it's not punishment. Maybe it's persistence. Maybe it believes in your potential more than you do. Maybe it's saying, you're not done yet. You haven't learned what this pain came to teach you. And when you finally stop running, when you stop complaining and start reflecting, something changes. The pattern breaks. The weight lifts. The silence starts to make sense. Because life doesn't repeat itself to hurt you. It repeats itself to heal you. It just needs you to listen before it has to shout again. funny thing about patterns. They're not just habits. They're stories you tell yourself to stay the same. You keep saying, "That's just how I am," like it's a shield. But really, it's a chain. You keep repeating the same mistakes, chasing the same kind of people, falling into the same traps, and calling it fate. But it's not fate. It's a pattern, a loop of your own making. You say you want peace, yet you're addicted to the noise. You say you want truth, yet you cling to lies that make you feel safe. You say you want change, yet you keep choosing what hurts you because it's familiar. That's the trick of the mind. It confuses comfort with safety, even when comfort is killing you slowly. You want to know why you keep ending up in the same emotional corners, because you never ask why. You react, you rage, you complain, but you don't reflect. The same type of betrayal, the same disappointment, the same heartbreak, over and over again. And still you never stop to think, what is this showing me about myself? Because it's always about you. Always. Every person you meet, every situation you face is a mirror. And mirrors don't lie. They don't care about your excuses, your pain, your past. They just reflect. And if you hate what you see, breaking the mirror won't change the reflection. You've got to face what's in it. You see, patterns are comfortable because they're predictable. Pain becomes a routine. You already know how it feels to be hurt. So it's less frightening than the unknown. That's why you go back to the same type of people who mistreat you. Not because you love them, but because they feel familiar. Familiar feels like home, even when home was toxic. That's how deep conditioning runs. You call it love, but it's not love. It's trauma dressed up as affection. You keep reliving the same emotional script, hoping this time the ending will change. But it won't, not until you do. You ever wonder why the same emotions come back in cycles? Why life keeps pushing the same buttons? Because you still react the same way. You still take things personally that were meant to teach you. You still fight the lesson instead of learning from it. You can't heal while defending your wound. You've got to stop explaining your pain and start understanding it. Every time something triggers you, that's the universe saying, this part of you still needs work. But instead of listening, you distract yourself, blame others, and pretend you're fine. But the universe doesn't care about your performance. It only cares about your progress. You keep praying for change, but you don't change your choices. You keep asking for peace, but you won't leave the chaos that destroys it. You keep wanting new life, but you won't let go of the version of yourself that fits the old one. That's the irony of it all. You want transformation without surrender. You want miracles without movement. You want answers without accountability. But that's not how growth works. Life doesn't bend until you do. And the moment you stop fighting what it's trying to show you, everything starts to shift. People love to say, time heals everything. No, it doesn't. Awareness does. Time just gives you space. What you do with that space decides whether you heal or repeat. Most people don't heal. They just distract themselves until it stops hurting, and then they call that healing. But the wound is still there, waiting for the right trigger to reopen it. That's why the same kind of pain keeps finding you. You never dealt with it. You just buried it. You built a life around avoiding what hurt you instead of confronting it. And the more you avoid it, the more power it gains. That's why the universe keeps bringing it back. You know what's even more ironic? You already know the pattern. You can feel it. You can see it coming, like a storm on the horizon. And yet you walk right into it again. Not because you don't know better, but because you hope this time it'll be different. You hope this time the person will change, the situation will work, the pain will be less. But it never is. Because patterns don't break with hope. They break with action. And that's the one thing most people avoid. Change that costs them comfort. But if you don't pay that price, you'll keep paying the price of repetition. You think the universe is cruel for putting you through the same test, but maybe it's not cruelty. Maybe it's mercy. Maybe it's trying to save you from yourself. Maybe it's saying, until you see what's really happening, I'll keep showing you. Because some lessons aren't learned through logic. They're learned through experience, through pain, through exhaustion. And when you finally get tired, not physically, but say spiritually tired, that's when the shift begins. That's when you stop asking, why me? And start asking, what now? It's strange, isn't it? The very thing you think is holding you back might actually be the thing trying to wake you up. The repetition isn't random. The cycle isn't accidental. It's intentional. It's designed to expose the weakness, the wound, the lie you keep feeding yourself. You can't escape a pattern by blaming the pattern. You escape it by seeing the truth, the part you've been ignoring. Because awareness is the crack in the loop, the moment the game changes. And once you see it, truly see it, the pattern loses its power over you. The mirror stops showing pain and starts showing potential. And that's when life finally stops repeating itself. You ever realize how most people never actually grow? They just recycle. Different year, same behavior. Different faces, same drama. They talk about change like it's a dream. But when it comes time to act, they freeze. Because growth is terrifying. It's not pretty. It's not peaceful. It's violent. It breaks the illusions you built about who you are and what you deserve. That's why most people choose to stay stuck. It's safer to complain about life than to rebuild it. Safer to stay in pain that's familiar than to risk a peace that's unknown. But nothing changes until you get brutally honest with yourself. Until you stop pretending you're fine and admit you're not where you want to be. You keep saying, oh, one day things will be different. But one day never comes, does it? Because the version of you saying that isn't built for the life you want. You keep carrying old habits into new opportunities and wondering why nothing sticks. You keep asking for blessings that your mindset would destroy. Life won't give you more until you become more. That's the cruel little secret no one tells you. The universe doesn't reward wishes. It rewards alignment. You can pray all you want, but if your actions scream fear, you're going to get more situations that feed it. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you are. And that's the part that stings. Realizing you've been your own obstacle. All the delays, the missed chances, the people who left. Maybe they didn't ruin your path. Maybe they revealed it. Maybe every loss was a warning you ignored. You want to evolve, but you don't want to lose anything in the process. You want transformation without the shedding, success without sacrifice. But that's not how it works. You can't build a new life while dragging the corpse of the old one. You can't become the person you're meant to be while clinging to the identity that's been killing you slowly. It's strange, isn't it? How life has this way of whispering right before something changes. Like the air feels different, heavier, quieter. You can't explain it, but deep down, you know something's coming. You scroll, you laugh. You pretend it's just another night. But something inside you won't sit still. It's almost like the universe is leaning in, trying to tell you something before the clock resets. Maybe it's not coincidence you're here right now, hearing this. Maybe there's a message meant only for you. Before tomorrow wakes up and everything you know shifts just a little. Moments before change. Silence speaks the loudest. You ever notice how everything goes quiet before something big happens? Not just around you. Inside you. The noise fades, the chaos slows down, and suddenly the world feels still. You think it's peace, but it's not. It's pressure building under calm skin. It's the universe holding its breath before it flips everything upside down. That silence isn't comfort. It's a warning. It's the pause before the storm. The moment before the truth walks in uninvited. You can feel it, can't you? That unease that crawls under your ribs when life gets too quiet. It's not paranoia. It's recognition. Your soul knows something your mind hasn't caught up to yet. People mistake silence for safety. They think calm means everything's fine. But the truth is, real change never announces itself with noise. It slips in quietly, disguised as nothing. You won't hear it coming, but you'll feel it. That sudden distance between you and the people you thought you'd never lose. That heavy air that hangs in the room when something's about to end. That strange pull in your chest when you know life's about to test you again. That's silence speaking. It's not asking you to panic. It's asking you to pay attention. Silence has a way of exposing what noise hides. When the distractions stop, the truth gets louder. You start hearing your thoughts, your doubts, your guilt, all the things you've been burying under conversation, music, scrolling, laughter. You start realizing how much of your peace was just avoidance. And that's the moment change starts creeping in. Because you can't fix what you refuse to face. The silence corners you, forces you to look at what's really there. The cracks in your relationships, the emptiness in your routines, the lies you tell yourself to stay comfortable. It's brutal, that honesty. But it's necessary. The moments before change are strange. Everything feels familiar yet off. You wake up and something in the air feels heavier. People talk, but their words don't land the same. The things that used to excite you now feel dull. You start sensing the gap between who you are and who you're supposed to become. That's not depression. That's awakening. That's your old life falling apart quietly, piece by piece, before your new one begins. The silence isn't empty. It's full of endings you don't understand yet. You might try to run from it. Fill the quiet with sound. Fill the stillness with motion. But that doesn't stop what's coming. Change doesn't care if you're ready. It comes when you've ignored the signs too long. It comes when the noise you used to drown in stops working. And it doesn't ask permission. It takes what's no longer needed. People, habits, illusions, and leaves you standing there, wondering why everything suddenly feels different. But deep down, you already knew. You just didn't want to admit it. There's always that moment right before life shifts where everything seems almost too calm. That's when most people make mistakes. They mistake the quiet for peace, not realizing it's the silence before impact. You think nothing's happening, but everything is. The pieces are moving behind the curtain, the universe rearranging what no longer fits. You feel restless, anxious, disconnected. Like something's ending, but you can't name what. That's not confusion. That's clarity approaching. And it always arrives disguised as discomfort. You start to hear whispers in your thoughts. Not voices, but feelings. That little nudge that says, "This isn't right anymore." The growing discomfort in situations that once felt safe. The exhaustion that comes from pretending you're fine. You try to fight it, to push through, but the silence doesn't let go. It lingers, pressing against you until you listen, because silence doesn't yell. It doesn't beg. It just waits, patiently, for you to realize that something's about to change, whether you like it or not. The moments before change are sacred. You don't notice it while you're in them, but they hold power. Every ending begins with stillness. Every transformation starts with a pause. That's where you're tested. In the quiet, not the chaos. Because when the noise is gone, you're left with the truth. No distractions, no excuses, just you and the reflection of who you've become. And in that silence, you realize what needs to stay and what needs to go. That realization isn't soft, it's sharp, it cuts deep. But that's how growth sounds before it begins. Not loud, not dramatic, but deadly quiet. You'll look back one day and recognize it. That night when you couldn't sleep for no reason. That day when you felt everything slowing down. That moment when the laughter around you suddenly felt hollow. You'll realize that was the shift beginning. The silence before the storm that changed everything. And maybe now, you'll stop running from it, because silence isn't emptiness. It's transition. It's the sound of your old self fading and your new one preparing to wake up. And if you listen closely enough, you can almost hear it. The whisper before the world rearranges itself around you. What feels random is rarely accidental. You think things just happen, don't you? A coincidence here, a strange encounter there, a message you didn't mean to see, a feeling you can't explain. You call it luck, fate, bad timing, whatever helps you sleep at night. But deep down, you know better. The truth is nothing is random. Everything's connected, every thread, every moment, every pain. Life doesn't throw dice, it draws patterns. You just don't notice them until they've already wrapped around you. You ever wonder why certain people cross your path right when you need them? Or why something you thought was meaningless suddenly feels heavy with meaning later? It's because nothing in this world happens by accident. The things that break you, the people who hurt you, the chances you missed, they all fit somewhere in a design bigger than your understanding. You think it's chaos, but it's choreography. The problem is, you're too close to see the pattern. You're standing in the middle of the painting, trying to understand the whole picture. The moments that seem the most random are usually the most deliberate. That stranger you met who said exactly what you needed to hear. That delay that made you miss something that would have gone wrong. That heartbreak that forced you to find yourself. It's all a setup. The universe isn't cruel, it's clever. It gives you what you need, not what you want. And sometimes what you need looks like disaster until it reveals itself as direction. You call it pain. Life calls it correction. Most people move through life half asleep. They don't pay attention. They shrug things off as coincidence. They ignore the signs because signs don't come wrapped in comfort. They come wrapped in confusion. You think it's random that you saw that post, that you heard those words, that you ended up here, right now, listening to something that feels too personal to be chance. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's exactly where you were meant to be, because something, or someone, wanted your attention. The universe has this twisted sense of timing. It doesn't rush, doesn't explain. It just waits for you to be ready. Ready to see what it's been showing you all along. But most people aren't ready. They cling to control, to predictability, to patterns that make them feel safe. They want meaning, but not mystery. They want answers, but not truth. And so, when something unexpected happens, they panic. They call it bad luck. But there's no such thing. It's just life rearranging things to put you where you actually belong. You'll start noticing it when you slow down. The way everything lines up when you stop forcing it. The way certain rejections turn out to be protection. The way something you lost leads you straight to something better. You start realizing that what felt random was actually precise. Every delay, every detour, every heartbreak, calculated. You were never late, you were being positioned, but you couldn't see it because your vision was clouded by expectation. You thought it was supposed to go your way. You thought you were in control, but you were never driving. You were just along for the lesson. It's funny how we only connect the dots looking back. When we're in the moment, everything feels unfair, meaningless, out of order. We curse the timing, we question the reason, we demand explanations. But later, When the dust settles, it makes sense. You realize if that one thing hadn't gone wrong, nothing else would have gone right. If that door hadn't closed, you wouldn't have walked through the right one. You start to see that the pieces that once looked random were actually building something precise. You just didn't recognize the blueprint. But here's the trick. You can't see the pattern if you keep doubting it. You can't call everything meaningless and expect meaning to reveal itself. Life doesn't prove itself to skeptics. It reveals itself to listeners. The ones who pay attention. The ones who look beyond the surface. The ones who trust that maybe there's more happening than what they can see. Because when you start seeing everything as connected, the world starts talking back. You notice timing. You notice alignment. You stop calling things weird and start calling them right. Maybe the thing you think you stumbled upon tonight. This moment, this message, wasn't random either. Maybe it was sent, not found. Maybe life has been trying to get through you for a while now, and this was the only way you'd listen. Because sometimes, to get your attention, life doesn't shout. It whispers through coincidence. It plants clues in your path, waiting for you to connect them. And when you finally do, when you finally stop saying, "That's strange," and start saying, "That's meant," everything changes. What feels random is rarely accidental. It's alignment disguised as accident. It's purpose wearing the mask of chaos. And maybe, just maybe, all those moments you thought were meaningless, the missed calls, the strange dreams, the unexpected endings, were part of a story you were always meant to live. You just needed to reach this point to start seeing it. Because once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. And once you realize nothing's random, you stop fearing what's next. You start listening for it. You're being prepared for something you can't see yet. That's the thing about growth. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't show up with fireworks or clear instructions. It's colder. It sneaks in through frustration, through silence, through moments that make you question everything. You think life is breaking you, but really it's shaping you. Every delay, every disappointment, every sleepless night, it's part of the process. You're being molded in the dark, tested in private, stretched in ways that don't make sense until the reason finally reveals itself. You keep asking for purpose, but you don't realize that purpose doesn't come gift. Wrapped, it comes disguised as pressure. You want to be strong, but you don't want the weight that builds strength. You want clarity, but not confusion. You want blessings, but not the process that makes you ready to receive them. Life doesn't work like that. Before you get what you want, you're prepared for it. And that preparation doesn't feel like progress. It feels like chaos. It feels like loss. It feels like silence. You're not stuck. You're being trained. The things you call problems are the lessons you begged for in your prayers. You asked for peace, and life sent you people who disturb it so you could learn boundaries. You asked for confidence, and life gave you rejection so you'd learn to validate yourself. You asked for strength, and life handed you pain so you'd finally build some. You thought the process would be gentle, but transformation never is. It tears you apart before it puts you together again. You keep looking for signs of progress. But preparation doesn't always look like movement. Sometimes it's standing still when everything in you wants to run. Sometimes it's waiting when you don't know what you're waiting for. Sometimes it's losing people you thought you couldn't live without. You think it's punishment, but it's pruning. The unnecessary parts of your life have to fall away before the real you can breathe. Because you can't carry old versions of yourself into new chapters. They don't fit there. The hardest part is not knowing what's coming next. You feel it, that pull, that tension, that quiet sense that something's about to shift. But nothing's happening yet. That's where the real test is. Not in the chaos, but in the calm before it. That's when most people give up, because they mistake silence for absence. They think life forgot about them. But silence doesn't mean forgotten. It means you're in the making. The universe doesn't rush perfection. It builds it piece by piece, unseen, until the moment it's ready. You're being stripped of things that no longer align with where you're headed. The people, the habits, the comfort zones, all of it has an expiration date. And when it's time, life removes them whether you're ready or not. It feels cruel, but it's necessary. Because if you knew what was coming, you'd cling to what's leaving. You'd never let go. You'd sabotage your own future, trying to protect your past. That's why you're not allowed to see it yet. You're meant to trust the process, not control it. You'll notice patterns. The same situations repeating in different forms. The same emotions resurfacing, no matter how far you run. That's not coincidence. That's life, trying to make sure you learn the lesson before the next stage begins. Because you can't move forward carrying the same wounds, the same fears, the same blindness. You think you're waiting for an opportunity, but the truth is, the opportunity is waiting for you to evolve. You're being built for it in silence, forged by discomfort, refined by what feels unfair. You won't always feel strong while you're being prepared. Most days, you'll feel lost. You'll feel like you're going backward, like nothing makes sense. But that's how growth feels in real time. Confusing, painful, slow. It's only afterward that you look back and see the pattern, the precision. You realize the heartbreak taught you discernment. The silence taught you patience. The failure taught you resilience. You see that every piece had purpose, even the ones that hurt the most. You're not behind. You're not forgotten. You're not cursed. You're in training. The kind of training that breaks the version of you that can't handle what's coming. You're being built for the next level. Not comfort, not applause, but purpose. The kind of purpose that requires depth. That's why it's lonely. That's why it's heavy. That's why it doesn't make sense. Because preparation always happens in private. You don't see the roots growing under the soil. You just see the flower when it's ready. So when life feels uncertain, When you can't see where it's leading, remember, you're not supposed to yet. The unknown isn't there to scare you. It's there to strengthen you. You're being prepared quietly through everything that confuses you for something you'd ruin if you got too soon. And when it finally arrives, you'll understand why the waiting had to hurt, why the lessons had to sting, why the silence had to stretch so long. Because the only way to recognize a blessing when it comes is to survive the preparation that shaped you for it. The signs you ignore tonight will become lessons tomorrow. Funny how people always think they can outrun the truth. They see the warning, they feel the unease. They hear that quiet whisper in the back of their mind. And still, they pretend everything's fine. Because facing it means admitting something's wrong. And no one wants to do that. No one wants to believe the pain is a message, the silence is a signal, the timing is a teacher. So they look away, laugh it off, and call it coincidence. Until life stops whispering and starts screaming. You ever notice how every mistake starts with a feeling you ignored? That gut twist, that hesitation, that small voice saying, "Don't do it." You buried it under noise. You convinced yourself it was paranoia. You wanted to believe what was easier, not what was true. So you moved forward, pretending not to see the cracks forming. And when it all fell apart, you said you didn't see it coming. But you did. You just didn't listen. The truth was there the whole time, waiting to be acknowledged. Life doesn't punish you out of cruelty. It corrects you through consequence. When you ignore the small signs, it sends bigger ones. When you dismiss the small discomforts, it brings chaos. It's not being unfair. It's trying to wake you up. You can't keep walking past the same red flags and expect a different ending. Every warning ignored becomes a wound later. Every delay avoided turns into disaster. Every lesson skipped repeats itself in louder, uglier ways. You call it bad luck, but it's not. It's repetition. The universe keeps setting the same test until you pass it. The same type of person, the same type of pain, the same type of ending. Because you didn't listen the first time. You keep wondering why life feels like déjà vu. It's because you're walking in circles, mistaking motion for progress. You're not cursed, you're stubborn. You want growth without change, wisdom without loss, peace without accountability. It doesn't work like that. The lessons keep coming until they're learned. You feel it though. That tension inside when something doesn't sit right. That strange energy when you're about to make a choice you already know you'll regret. You think it's anxiety, but sometimes it's clarity disguised as discomfort. Your soul knows before your mind catches up, but your ego hates silence, so it talks over it. It convinces you to stay where you're breaking because leaving looks uncertain. It tells you to trust what's familiar instead of what's right. And then, when everything collapses, it blames the world for being cruel. The signs are always there, in words that don't match actions, in people who keep showing you who they are, but you keep rewriting the story, in nights you can't sleep because something deep inside you knows you're lying to yourself. That's the thing. Truth doesn't disappear just because you ignore it. It waits. It waits in the corners of your mind, in your dreams, in your reflection, when you can't pretend anymore. And when you're finally forced to face it, it doesn't come gently. It hits hard. It burns everything false to the ground. You ever notice how hindsight feels like clarity, but also shame? You look back and say, I should have known. You did know. You just didn't want to. That's what hurts the most. Realizing that the pain could have been avoided if you had just trusted what you felt the first time. But that's how life works. It lets you fall so you finally understand why you should have listened before you lipped. Pain is a brutal teacher, but it gets your attention like nothing else. Sometimes the sign isn't dramatic. Sometimes it's just quiet discontent. The conversation that doesn't sit right. The opportunity that feels forced. The situation that drains you instead of growing you. You tell yourself it's temporary, that it'll get better. That maybe you're overthinking. But deep down, you know. You always know. You just want proof before you act. You want the pain to justify the choice, not realizing the sign was the mercy before the pain came. You keep saying, I wish I had known sooner. But knowing wasn't the problem. Trusting was. You wanted comfort, not correction. You wanted signs that confirmed what you wanted to believe, not what you needed to accept. So life stopped sending whispers and started sending storms. Because sometimes the only way to make you move is to make staying unbearable. That's not punishment. That's alignment. You weren't meant to live numb. You were meant to wake up. It's strange how people only listen when the lesson costs them something. They only change when the pain becomes too heavy to carry. They only understand when the signs have turned into scars. But that's how it goes. That's how awareness is born. Through damage, through reflection, through finally realizing that every ignored sign was a chance to avoid exactly this moment. The signs were never hidden. They were just inconvenient. So tonight, when that feeling creeps in, that unease, that whisper, that instinct, don't silence it. Don't call it fear when it might be truth. Because the message that feels uncomfortable now will become the memory that haunts you later. The same sign you brushed off will become the story you tell yourself when it's too late. And maybe, just maybe, what's trying to reach you tonight isn't a warning at all. It's mercy, dressed as discomfort, begging you to listen before life forces you to learn. Restlessness is often the soul's way of warning you. That ache inside, that heaviness that comes and goes without reason. It's not boredom, it's not exhaustion. It's something deeper trying to speak. You call it anxiety, you call it overthinking, but what if it's not? What if it's your soul tugging at your sleeve, whispering, you're not where you're supposed to be. You distract yourself with noise, with screens, with people who make you forget for a moment. But when it's quiet, there it is again, that hollow feeling that something's missing. That's not madness. That's misalignment. You think your soul doesn't notice when you're pretending. It does. Every time you say yes when you mean no. Every time you settle when you should have walked away. Every time you trade truth for comfort. It feels it. That's where restlessness comes from. It's the internal rebellion of the part of you that still remembers what peace feels like. The soul can't scream, so it shakes you. It makes you uneasy. It steals your sleep. It fogs your mind. It makes you question everything you thought was fine. Not to punish you, to wake you up. People think peace comes from having everything figured out, but real peace is alignment. It's when your life matches your truth. And when it doesn't, your body knows. Your energy knows. You start feeling heavy in rooms you used to love. Conversations that once excited you now drain you. People who used to make you laugh now leave you empty. That's not depression. That's awareness. That's your spirit whispering, "You've outgrown this." But instead of listening, you call it a phase. You try to fix the feeling instead of changing the situation. You scroll through distractions.